I mean, I remember pissing people off when I went home because I was like, so do the light-skinned people get more food stamps than the dark-skinned?
You did the stand-up routine where you talked about your stepfather and an incident where he got into it with a black man at the bus stop that he had splashed with his car, and then the light turned red, and then they started fighting because the guy told him to go back where he came from, and you said that your stepdad basically got beat up that day. Why was it so liberating for you to see your stepfather get handled by a black man like that?
Well, first and foremost, you know, I was constantly being given this messaging about me being, see, it's all relative, right? I'm the dark one in my family. So it was always pointed out. And from him and his side of the family that there was something black that was in me because my features were different than my siblings. But not just that, it's just, I grew up completely in a black and brown neighborhood, right? I went to Kelsey Farr, Comstock, Jackson, Allapattah.
What city and state?
Miami.
In Miami.
So these are schools that are predominantly black and brown. So I grew up with all my friends being black, American, or Latinos, and many of us were Afro-Latinos. My perception of blackness was not that of less than. It was these my family, this my people. We all when they come through here and harass us, they don't be pushing me to the side and be like, "Oh, not the little boy." We were all the same. So when I see, you know, and I hear about this attitude towards black people was always something that was not in me. And it was always a problem because I always was like, why? It was always like, why do you always want to be with them? I am Puerto Rican, Dominican, raised in Miami, Florida, between Miami and New York. I'm American too. And America is part of my cultural experience. I'm listening to hip hop, you know, I'm listening to R&B. I'm listening to, it's not just salsa. This is my community. This is where I grew up. Luke is from Miami. That's the DJ in my middle school dance. Like this cultural experience that's American is also my own. And so I never felt like anybody was less than. So when this attitude about blackness, us being better than them, it never resonated with me. And so you damn right you should beat his ass. Like you know what I mean? I was just like, you can't just be going around treating people you in the same condition, if not even worse. What is it that makes you better than that person? The fact that you have lighter skin, like where does that come from? It's insanity to me. You know, like when I mean, I remember pissing people off when I went home because I was like, so do the light-skinned people get more food stamps than the dark-skinned? I didn't think so. What is it that makes you feel, where do you get that from? You know, like, why do you walk around? The war on us is so harsh. Like, why do you have time to do this to somebody you should be locking arms with? And so to see him and to hear, you know, the beat down was symbolic of something that needed to happen, a reckoning and a lesson that, you know, you treat people like people. And I've always felt that way, even as a little child.
So growing up, what comedians made you see yourself on stage?
You know, the first comedian experience that I had in Spanish was this Cuban comedian. He was a joke comic, right? And my stepfather used to listen to him. It was this Cuban man named Alvarez Hede. And, you know, I used to listen to him because they used to listen to him and he'd do these jokes. The first time I heard Richard Pryor, my uncle exposed me to, my youngest uncle used to expose me to hip hop. Like he would be like, just come in here and listen. As a little kid, to be able to listen to somebody grown talking about his getting high and his dog, I laughed so hard and I was like, man, like what is this? It was magic for me. It was euphoric. And so he was my first experience with comedy where it made me interested in it and saying, I want to do that. I would take the broomstick and tell jokes to my mom. And then, you know, I watched comedy my whole life and I remember seeing some more and seeing this woman named Chocolate that was out of Atlanta. That was like a beautiful woman that was also funny and dressed pretty. Like that was a thing for me that I was like, I like the women who were funny and were affirmed their femininity, which was the space that I wanted to be in. Cause I used to watch Lucy and I used to be like, yo, Lucy is cutting a fool, but she got on a cute dress.
I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
I love that show.
Yeah, me too.
I love her.
But always beautiful, right? She was always pretty,
Yeah.
always dressed nice, and still funny. And then you think about like Thelma was pretty, right? And Willona was always had on her get-ups, and you look. Helen was always dressed nice on the Jeffersons, and I gravitated to that combination of funny and feminine, and that's what I always wanted to do. So I just remember my journey, but George Carlin was a very big deal for me because, like when I would think comedy should always be this, and then he was talking about conditions and things that I became aware of as I got older. Just being able to watch funny people and it just, those 70s, 80s sitcoms had a very big impact on me. And I always was like, I want to be in that world. That's what I want to do. Like I want to make people laugh and I want to make people feel good. Because I know how hard it was. I lived in how hard it was. And it was those things that made me, took me away from my conditions at the time.